Death Battle is a show that holds a very special place in my heart. It's a show that resulted in me joining communities and making friends that I'm very thankful to have today. Really being the first time I've become a part of something more than just myself. And introducing me to a lot of characters that I probably wouldn't have thought about otherwise. And as of making this video, they've just wrapped up their 8th season, celebrating the show having gone on for 10 years strong now. It's crazy to think it's been going strong for that long, and to see how much the show has evolved and changed in that time. Naturally, I wanted to do something special for the occasion, and by something special, I mean I'm just ripping off a video concept from Nemesis, and flashbacks. Okay, in all seriousness, I've been meaning to make another video like this since I did that Punch Time Explosion one a while ago, and while I do have a couple of ideas for that, I ran a poll on Twitter saying that this is the one I should prioritize. To keep things interesting though, none of these ideas are going to be repeated from those videos. Aside from that though, the rules are pretty much going to be the same. Mainly just that I'm not going to have any returning combatants as the representatives I choose for these series. With one exception that we'll get to later. Also, keep in mind, I'm not saying any of these are the definitive next matches they have to do for any of these series. Some of these aren't even series suggestions and either are just gag matchups or only exist because I needed to come up with something for the purpose of this video. Alright, no more delay, let's get into this because there's a lot of matches we have to cover. Star Wars. Han Solo versus Captain Kirk from Star Trek. The coolest spaceship pilots you'll ever meet that go up against impossible odds but get by with their quick wit and just a blaster in their hands. It's also Star Wars vs. Star Trek, which is probably the biggest franchise rivalry they still haven't tackled, and this is probably also the only fair match you can do with it without delving into the more obscure stuff. Metroid. Okay, so I don't know if the spoiler grace period for Dread is over yet, and I'm gonna assume no if I have to ask that, so if you don't want that, then just skip ahead to the next timestamp. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Ravenbeak versus the Dedoct from Halo. Two antagonistic, high-ranking members and factions of alien races that are heavily armored. They both have goals of conquering other races in the galaxy, and they both mutate themselves to become stronger. I apologize if I missed anything here, but it sounds like it could be cool, but I probably wouldn't expect it to happen before Chief vs. Samus. Street Fighter / Final Fight. Sakura vs. Videl from Dragon Ball. Basically a follow-up to Hercule vs. Dan with their feisty pupils who aspire to be great martial artists. Mortal Kombat. Shiva vs. Luma Redwind from Ben 10. Female warriors of muscular, four-armed races, both of which can beat the shit out of me. What did I write? Marvel. I'm not just going to go with a Marvel vs. DC matchup here, because there isn't really one that I'm clamoring for, and also I feel like it's kind of a cop-out, no offense. So instead, for Marvel, I'm doing Mr. Fantastic versus Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. Two scientists known for being insanely smart, constantly going on adventures across time, space, and other dimensions, overcoming impossible odds, and being massive dicks to their families. And for DC, Harley Quinn versus Dementia from Villainous. Two right-hand women for a wholly evil villain who they are also total simps for, except all that's in the past tense for Harley since she moved past that. But beyond that, both are also known for being heavy hitters that challenge various superheroes, and also for being just a little bit nuts. Super Mario! Woohoo! Sorry. Rosalina versus Magolor from Kirby. Popular recurring characters who start off as allies to the heroes of Nintendo platformer series, both of which made their debut in a highly acclaimed Wii game. They're both magic users with a space motif to them, both of which are also pilots of their own spacecrafts, with the Comet Observatory and Lore Starcutter respectively. I don't think it's Magolor's best matchup, but I do think it's one of Rosalina's better ones, at least out of the ones I've heard. It's not Wii, so it's already an improvement. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know what, since she's been getting a lot more spotlight recently, April O'Neil versus Lois Lane from DC. Famous female characters who are news reporters with close ties to superheroes they have to keep secret about, both of which often get in way over their head when trying to get a scoop, but more recently they've shown they can also kick some ass. I like this idea, it's funny to me. Battletoads, I didn't really have many ideas for this, so I just nicked an idea I saw written on DeviantArt once. Rash versus Garnet from Steven Universe. Non-human, punchy heroes with cool shades and shape-shifting powers. It's not really my favorite matchup for Garnet, but again, I didn't really know what else to go for here. Killer Instinct. Kim Woo versus Sun Wukong from RWBY. I don't really know if there's anything more to this one, other than just young heroes themed after Chinese myth and nunchuck experts. I do know this was the DBX that never happened, and that Sun is the RWBY character outside of the main four they seem really interested in using for some reason. So, whatever. Darkstalkers. Lord Raptor vs. Squiggly from Skullgirls. They're undead musical performers from fighting games with symbiotic partners. And there's a stark contrast between rock and roll and classical music, also reflecting the contrast in their personalities. BlazBlue. Iron Tiger vs. Potemkin from Guilty Gear. They're basically just the two big grappler boys of Arc System's two big over-the-top fighting games. I'm pretty sure that's it, but also, what else do you need? It's already pretty epic. God of War. Okay, apologies in advance that this was the best I could come up with. Baldur vs. Queen Elsa from Frozen. They were cursed as children, they have ice powers, and parent issues. Spawn. Angela vs. Angelwamon from Digimon. I know a guy who wrote this fight, but I don't remember the connections to it other than angels and women. Also, apparently Angela isn't a Spawn character anymore, but I don't give a fuck. Bomberman. The 5 Dastardly Bombers versus the Freaky Monkey 5 from Ape Escape. They're lackeys of the Big Bad, and there are 5 of them. Namco Arcade. Okay, so I'm kind of cheating on this one because if I just went with Dig Dug, then there's only like 2 other characters to work with. And they're both basic Mook enemies that don't really have enough to warrant matchups for them. So I decided to broaden things up and instead go with Pac-Man versus Felix the Cat. It's pretty much just jolly characters that were basically there from the beginning of their respective mediums, in video games and animation respectively. Both were big names for a time and branched out until they started taking a back seat with new material for them being a lot rarer nowadays, which makes me kind of sad. Dragon Ball. Piccolo versus Alan the Alien from Invincible. Basically, 2 aliens with regenerative and telepathic powers that are first presented as antagonists who want to destroy the Earth, but then either become good or turn out to not be so bad, and with both becoming vital allies to the main hero. It's a cool Piccolo matchup that's a hell of a lot fairer than his big one, that's for certain. Sonic the Hedgehog. Unfortunately, didn't really have a lot of matchups I liked or really cared enough about, aside from Bowser vs. Eggman, which I can't go for here for obvious reasons. So, just gonna take an easy way out on this one and say Rouge the Bat versus Sly Cooper. Thieves that are the leaders of trios that are usually on opposite sides of the law but still have good intentions behind their shady act and will frequently team up with their rivals in the face of a bigger threat. And both have a strained romantic relationship with a hothead. Also, they're both furries. Honestly, not that bad of a matchup, it's just marred by the fact that there's no debate whatsoever. Okay, so originally I was gonna skip over real life, but then I thought of a really stupid idea that's kind of a loophole. Shaquille O'Neal from Shaq Fu versus LeBron James from Space Jam. 2 big-name professional basketball players who get trapped in alternate worlds and have to go on a journey to save their kids while acquiring new powers and abilities from those worlds. It's just stupid and I love it. Harry Potter. Lord Voldemort versus Orochimaru. Snake-themed pale-skinned villains who have a connection to the main character. That's all I know about this one. Gandalf vs. Dumbledore was already taken, and the Harry Potter character is getting stomped, which is morally okay. Fatal Fury / King of Fighters. Kim Kafwan versus Hwarang the one dude from Tekken. Fighting game characters who are masters of Taekwondo and rivals to a protagonist. Transformers. Nemesis is probably gonna get on my case for this one, but that would be kind of fitting, because it's Nemesis Prime versus Bizarro from DC. Clones of iconic alien heroes in red and blue that were created by humans and didn't quite turn out the way they wanted to, as they're both complete opposites of their heroic counterparts. It's no Bizarro versus SMG3, but still neat if you ask me. My Little Pony. The great and powerful Trixie versus Zatanna, specifically from DC Superhero Girls. Because Zatanna is basically just Trixie in that show. Halo. The Arbiter versus the Predator. Fully armored hunters from advanced alien warrior races, both wielding high-tech weaponry and coming into conflict with humans multiple times. Doom. The Spider Mastermind versus Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's just an evil brain in a big mech suit. Mega Man. Shademan versus Nos4A2 from Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. They're both robot vampires. And that's it. This one's obviously not going to happen, but how many other opportunities am I going to get to come up with a match for Nos4A2? The Legend of Zelda. I don't really know what the chances of them using anyone from outside the Triforce trio are, but I wanted to throw out a more oddball idea in Majora versus Uka Uka from Crash Bandicoot. They're sentient, evil masks with mystic powers whose only goals are to spread chaos and destruction, and they command the lackey to carry out said goals, with Majora attaching itself to Skull Kid's face and Uka Uka bossing around Cortex. Another idea I'm definitely not expecting them to do, but the idea of a battle to the death between two literal masks is just funny to me. Final Fantasy: Bahamut vs. Rayquaza from Pokémon. Basically just two big legendary dragons of RPG franchises that are considered the lords of the skies and are known for casually flying through space and destroying big space rocks. And they both have transformations that make them even more insanely powerful, with one of them even being banned from Ubers for it. Pokémon: Incineroar vs. Zetterburn from Rivals of Aether. Two bipedal fighting fire cats, with one being a fighter in Smash Bros. And the other being one of the main characters of a Smash Bros. Inspired indie game. Honorable mention goes to Greninja vs. Rano, which is basically the same deal, except with ninja frogs instead of fire cats. But I went with this one because I personally prefer Incineroar, and apparently Dan Fornance himself even suggested this matchup. Masters of the Universe: Skeletor vs. Lord Zed from Power Rangers. Two magic-using Lords of Evil who are prominent threats, but also known for being over-the-top and hammy, even by the standards of the shows they come from. Sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. Thundercats is getting Cheetara versus Cheetah from DC. They're cheetahs. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of anything else. Ninja Gaiden: Rachel versus Trish from Devil May Cry. Blonde demon-hunting women who are also part demon themselves that are prominent allies in hack-and-slash action games. Strider barely had any other characters to work with, aside from the Kunyang martial arts team versus the Fury Sisters from Hades. They're a trio of antagonistic fighting sisters. Yeah. SoulCalibur: Mitsurugi vs. Haomaru from Samurai Showdown. Fighting game samurai dudes. I think that's it. I don't know these two that well, so there's most likely more to it than that, I'd hope. Star Fox: Wolf O'Donnell versus Anubis Kruger from Power Rangers. Basically just space dogs. One's the law enforcer and the other the bounty hunter who's a wanted criminal. Bucky O'Hare: Jenny vs. Crystal from Star Fox. The sole female members of Fox and Bucky's teams who come from alien planets where they've studied mystic abilities. Both of which probably also awoken something in a lot of people. Terminator: Sarah Connor versus Ellen Ripley from Alien. Two of the most well-known female leads in movie franchises that are skilled with firearms and go up against impossible, inhuman odds. It sounds like it'd be really cool to see as a live-action fight if we ever get another one of those. Yeah, I'd be down for it. RoboCop: Ed 209 versus Bite and Bark from ARMS, Police Robots. It's another series where I basically had nothing. Godzilla: Space Godzilla versus Ultraman Belial from Ultraman. Evil counterparts of Godzilla and Ultraman respectively, who are also considered the most dangerous opponents they've gone up against. Both of which came to be thanks to some weird cosmic energy stuff. Gamera is another series that I don't really know a lot about, so I'm just nicking an idea from Nemesis's Every Kaiju video because he already went with his Kinney matchup in Destroya vs. Iris. So, just Jiger versus Anguirus from Godzilla. Quadrupedal kaijus who were one of Godzilla's and Gamera's first major opponents, and they're known for getting their shit kicked in. Go Go Power Rangers! Rita Repulsa versus Queen Beryl from Sailor Moon. Two evil women stationed in space who are presented as the big bads before even bigger bads show up. And neither of them actually do much fighting themselves, instead just sending down monsters to Earth to fight the heroes. If nothing else, I think this will be funny and cool as another army fight, which we haven't gotten since Eggman vs. Wily. Mobile Suit Gundam: Full Armor Gundam versus Megas XLR. They're big robots, multiple pilots. I don't really know, but it has Coop in it, so that's based. Kirby: Nightmare vs. Black Hat from Villainous. Two powerful villains with dark powers that are the heads of their own businesses in which they offer their services to lesser villains. I think that mostly just applies to the anime version of Nightmare, but I'm pretty sure they still include right back at you stuff for Kirby characters anyway, so that's no big deal. As far as Black Hat matches go, it's no LG rhythm, but it's still pretty cool. Guilty Gear. Mei versus Ryuji from Persona 5. Naruto. Boruto versus Goten from Dragon Ball. Naruto versus Goku, but it's their kids. That's all I got. Avatar is another series that didn't really have a lot of matchups involving characters they didn't already use that I was that interested in. But this is an idea I've heard tossed around from friends on Discord that they seem pretty into. Avatar Kyoshi versus Zhongli from Genshin Impact. I don't really know the connections because I don't play Genshin. Apparently they're connected to the Earth and they're someone important. Again, I'm just presenting this idea because I've heard other friends suggest it before and they think it's cool. So, yeah, probably would be cool. Commercials. Well, this technically applies. Ronald McDonald versus Colonel Sanders. They're fast food mascots and they do a lot of very wacky shit. Also, it turned out to be a pretty good DBX, so why not? It would be pretty funny to see them covering all the stuff they've done, especially in the case of Sanders, because I have no idea what their thought process with him is. Berserk. Griffiths versus Burkett from Fire Emblem. Two men once destined for greatness that was taken away from them, and were given an offer by a higher power to be granted great power if they sacrificed at least one person they care about, which they accepted with nothing else to lose. This matchup just seemed okay to me out of the options. I know Fire Emblem is kinda overdue for Death Battle, and I would not expect Burkett to be the first choice of a rep though, but yeah, it works. Gargoyles. Demona versus Mystique from Marvel. Blue-skinned, antagonistic women with a serious grudge against humans because of them mistreating their kind. And they're also shitty moms. Metal Gear. Gray Fox versus Genji from Overwatch. Cyborg ninja dudes that can deflect projectiles with their swords. I don't know if there's anything more to it. But yeah, that's cool enough on its own. Splinter Cell is the series that I'm using that returning combatant cheat on, because there was pretty much no one else to work with. So with that said, Sam Fisher versus Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible. They're both just iconic spies that are masters of espionage, one from video games and one from movies. RWBY. Penny versus Elisa from Tekken. Robot girls with detachable body parts and a lot of blades that they fight with that were created by scientists to serve as the daughter of them. It's also an original versus inspiration match in the same vein as Yang versus Tifa. And hopefully this episode would go over a lot better than that one did. Astro Boy. Atlas versus Proto Man from Mega Man. It's Mega Man versus Astro Boy again, but with their brothers/rivals, I guess. Digimon. Again, another series that didn't really have a lot of interesting matchups to me, but except for this one that I saw Carbonated Gem draw as commissions, and I thought was pretty cool. Skull Greymon versus Dry Bowser from Mario. They're big, evil skeleton versions of reptilian characters. I don't know if there's anything more to it than that, but it just kind of vibes. Devil May Cry. People are gonna hate me for this one. Reboot Dante versus Act Zero Bomberman. Universally despised gritty reboot versions of characters that were actually fun and charming, that were made in attempts to appeal to Western audiences, which failed spectacularly. Bayonetta. Jean versus Raven from Gravity Rush. Red-clad rivals turned allies of the main characters that are from the same group and have the same powers as them. Basically just an offshoot of Bayonetta versus Cat, which is a matchup I kinda like, but this would also be pretty cool. I'd take it over this if it were to happen, even though it probably won't. Ratchet and Clank. Captain Quark versus Zap Brannigan from Futurama. Sci-fi captains that are seen as great heroes despite actually being total self-centered douchebags. It's a crazy casual Quark dub, but I don't care, it just sounds hilarious. Jak and Daxter. Daxter versus Kazooie from Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, I'm allowing this since they didn't use any of Daxter's own stuff from that one spin-off game he had. And also I didn't have anything else. It's just sassy animal sidekicks of platformer game duos. Yeah. Twisted Metal. Another stupid idea incoming. Billy Ray Stillwell versus Tow Mater from Cars. They are hillbillies, one drives a tow truck and the other is a tow truck. And they're both decked out with weapons, thanks to Cars 2. F you, it's funny to me. Red versus Blue. Do you have any idea how hard it was to come up with a matchup here that didn't involve any of the reds or blues? So with that said, Felix versus Roman Torchwick from RWBY. Minor villains of Rooster Teeth shows that care about their money and street cred and little else. Overwatch. Kind of a boring pick here, but Zarya versus the Heavy from Team Fortress 2. Big tanks of rival team shooters that carry around a big, heavy weapon. Also, they will win this for Mother Russia. Team Fortress 2. Gonna go with a matchup that I know my good friend Biff Weed really likes. That's right, it's the Spy vs. Agent 47 from Hitman. Two boastful but very skilled and stealthy assassins known for being proficient with killing and knife fighting. Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim himself versus Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes. They are nerds that kick ass and go through a gauntlet of crazy characters to reach their goals, both of which involve getting with a girl. It sounds like it could be fun, even though Scott really doesn't stand much of a chance anymore. One Piece. Whitebeard versus Escanor from the Seven Deadly Sins. Two arrogant, powerful warriors that are absolute units, with equally big weapons, both of which have major drawbacks that keep them from fighting at their peak, with Whitebeard's declining health and Escanor's inability to control his sunlight powers. Fairy Tail. Lucy Heartfilia versus Yuna from Final Fantasy. They're summoners, and there's probably a lot more to it than that, but that's all I know about these two. More army fight potential, yeah. Tomb Raider. I am so sorry for this one. Lara Croft's parents versus Batman's parents. Rich parents that are fucking dead. Yeah, I regret using my returning combatant cheat for Sam. God. Uncharted. Chloe Frazier versus Carmelita Fox from Sly Cooper. Okay, so in PlayStation All-Stars, Nathan Drake and Sly Cooper were rivals. And this is Nathan's female ally versus Sly's female rival. Yeah, that's really the best you're getting from me here, because Uncharted, again, didn't have much else to work with. MSCKEYMOUSE offers Goofy versus Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants. They're dim-witted best friends of cartoon characters that live surprisingly multifaceted lives. Seeing this one gain some traction recently, it's definitely no Bugs vs. Mickey or Donald vs. Daffy, but I like Goofy, so I'd be cool with this happening sometime after one of those. Shovel Knight, more apologies in advance for everyone I've tainted this idea for, but King Knight versus the Golden Queen from Skylanders. Golden antagonistic mock royals with an affinity for treasure that are part of a big evil team, with King Knight being a member of the Order of No Quarter and Golden Queen being the leader of the Doom Raiders, both of which start off as just bosses but eventually became playable. Voltron, Zarkon versus Vilgax from Ben 10. They're big, world-conquering aliens. I literally had nothing else here again. Bleach, another series I'm not that versed in, but this just sounds kind of cool. Kenpachi Zaraki versus August from Asura's Wrath. Basically just two boastful rivals/allies of the main character with long swords that love to fight. I'd take it over Kenpachi versus Akuma happening again. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Cars versus Meruem from Hunter x Hunter. Shonen anime antagonists that were biologically created and are known for being real smarty pantses and have the power to copy other people's powers. With Meruem getting new abilities via eating a part of his victim, and Cars' stand ability being him just using other characters' stand abilities. Fist of the North Star. Jagi versus Molina from Mortal Kombat. Two violent sociopaths are in charge of a group in a post-apocalyptic setting, both of which have a serious grudge against their siblings. A less conventional idea, but more interesting than a lot of Molina's other options, and could work pretty well, I think. So, sure. Crash Bandicoot! Cortex versus Nefarious from Ratchet and Clank. I don't really know if there's a lot to it other than just evil scientists of PlayStation platformers. They're both the main villains and occasionally allies, and I know it's a pretty easy win for Nefarious, but I just like it because it sounds like it'd be hella fun, and I like both characters. Yeah. Spyro the Dragon. Nasty Nork versus Gruntilda from Banjo-Kazooie. They're the main villains of 3D platformers who are big, green, use magic, and are sensitive about their looks. Kingdom Hearts. Kairi versus Sakura from Naruto. Because I know Riku versus Sasuke is a matchup, which I couldn't go with. And I guess this is the same deal, except instead of best friends that give into darkness, it's the female leads that are usually considered useless by the fandoms. I don't know. Kid Icarus. Palutena versus Cetrion from Mortal Kombat. Green-haired goddesses that embody light and life. One's good and the other's evil. Resident Evil. Albert Wesker versus Liquid Snake from Metal Gear. Basically, they were both genetically engineered to become superhuman, but it went to their head and they think they're above others. This was on a top 10 most wanted death battles video that I saw, and I think there was more to it than that, but that's all I remembered to write down for this. Whoops. Dead Rising. Chuck Green versus Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead. They're caring fathers who have to fight through massive hordes of zombies. And I think they both go crazy at some point. I don't know, because I don't actually watch Walking Dead. Tekken. Kazuya versus Garo from One Punch Man. Both are incredibly feared and respected martial artists who betrayed their masters in order to become more powerful and work their way up the food chain. And they can both transform into a more monstrous form that makes them even more powerful than they already are. Again, a bit more of an unconventional matchup, but it's apparently close, and we need more fighting game versus non-fighting game matchups, so I'll take it. Samurai Jack. Wachow. Aku versus the Lich from Adventure Time, major villains of Cartoon Network shows that are primordial entities, both of which can corrupt and mentally screw with others, and in canon they can only be permanently destroyed through very specific means. This no longer became one of my favorite Aku matchups, but I didn't feel like remaking this whole segment, so sorry Aku versus Hades fans. Afro Samurai, Justice versus Shishio Makoto from Rurouni Kenshin. They're villains of samurai-based animes with messed up faces. I don't know if there's more to it than that, nor do I really care. Elfen Lied. Okay, so every matchup for this series I saw involved Lucy, which I obviously couldn't do, and Nemesis already brought up the only idea not involving her in his video. So, here's the best you're getting at me for this one. Nana versus Anti-Venom from Marvel. It's just Lucy versus Carnage, except they were experimented on to take someone down. And another case of a symbiote losing to a pink-haired anime character. At least most likely. Ben 10. Gwen Tennyson versus Tara Branford from Final Fantasy. Two female protagonists who are alien-human hybrid, which allows them to tap into a power called mana for a variety of different spells and abilities. And they both have a super form that turns them purple. Persona. Toru Adachi versus Yoshikage Kira from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They're serial killers that come across as just ordinary people at a first glance, but they'll mercilessly kill anyone who comes close to finding out their true intentions with their weird OP powers. Also, it's Stance versus Persona users. As a matchup, it vibes, but I know Crossover X is still planning on doing it, and the head of that is also a researcher on Death Battle, so not sure if they'd want to risk the overlap. F-Zero, Blood Falcon versus Pandora Pit Stop from Wacky Races 2017. They're palette swaps of a character with some kind of blood relation to said character, with Blood being a clone of Captain Falcon and Pandora being Penelope's sister. No, definitely do not expect this one to happen, but I saw an opportunity and couldn't pass it up. Full Metal Alchemist, Lust versus Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil. Well, two genetically altered women who have claws and healing factors that are femme fatales and will murder men without a second thought. Also, they have Big Mommy. Yu Yu Hakusho, Kuwabara versus Okuyasu from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Dumbass best friends of the protagonist who are always screwing up their strategies but are incredibly determined and will stick with them to the bitter end, always somehow emerging victorious in spite of their brashness. I heard Ben apparently wanted to use Kuwabara on Death Battle but didn't have an idea for him, so here you go. Castlevania. Richter Belmont versus Sakuya Izuyoi from Toho. They're vampire slayers, and they eventually befriended a vampire. And my friend Shaft wrote this fight, and it's pretty good. So yeah. Mob Psycho 100, Reagan versus King from One Punch Man. Two characters from animes made by the same person that are considered the best at what they do, but are actually total phonies, and only get by on lies and luck or everyone around them being just totally stupid. Feels like it could be the next Turkill versus Dan, and I'd be all for that, even though apparently Reagan doesn't really have anything to work with for a death battle. One Punch Man. Lord Boros versus Battle Beast from Invincible. Boastful alien overlords that ravage worlds and travel the universe in search of fires that can challenge them in battle because they're just bored. They're pretty much the same character. The Mask. Again, didn't have a lot of characters to really work with, but I got another stupid idea here. Mitch Kellaway versus Eddie Valiant from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Mundane cops who have to put up with wacky cartoony shit, with Kellaway trying to take down the mask, and Eddie living in a world where people and toons coexist. It's not great, but I like the idea of looking at the most mundane characters and just totally batshit insane theories. My Hero Academia. Hero Killer Stain versus Syndrome from The Incredibles. Two major supervillains who started off as #1 fans of popular, super strong heroes, but would grow up to resent the very idea of superheroes. Stain after seeing so many in it for fame and money, and Syndrome after being turned down as Mr. Incredible's sidekick. They would then go on to kill several professional superheroes using their cunning skill, with their goal being to erase the need for them in the first place. Also, as I said, Stain hates heroes who are only in it for fame and glory is a part of Syndrome's motivation, so there's an easy way for the fight to start. Akami ga Kill. I don't really care, so just Shield versus Shortcut from Skylanders. Connections. They use big freaking scissors. Danny Phantom. Another series that also didn't have many matches I thought were interesting. So, Ember McLean versus Marceline from Adventure Time. And they're undead Rockstar Girls. And Nickelodeon versus Cartoon Network. And they're both popular characters in their fandoms. For various reasons. Funnily enough, American Dragon Jake Long, on the other hand, had one idea that I liked from a trailer someone made. Hunts Girl versus Sasha from Amphibia. Blonde girls who are friends of the main protagonist but end up getting put at odds with them when they're taken under the wing of a villainous organization where they earn a commanding rank only for both of them to regret their actions and work towards defeating a bigger bad with their regained friend. Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon herself versus Cardcaptor Sakura. They're the OG magical girl animes. There's probably more to it than that, but I'm pretty sure that's the gist of it. I mean, that alone's probably enough. It makes more sense than a lot of other Moons matchups, like Thea being just powerful, I guess. Archie Sonic. Yeah, I decided to count this as a separate series like Nem did, but in hindsight I don't know why, because the best I was able to come up with was Scourge versus Johnny Quick from DC. It's an evil version of Archie Sonic from another timeline versus an evil version of The Flash from another timeline. And because they already used Thawne. The Boys. I can use Black Noir. He technically wasn't in the 7 Royale, so Black Noir versus Nemesis from Icon Comics. Basically just, what if Batman was evil? Soul Eater. Death the Kid versus Stalking from Pantheon Stalking. Gothic anti-heroes with striped hair and weird transforming guns that they use to hunt ghosts and demons. And there's also a demon versus angel motif to it. Kill la Kill. Ragyo Kiryuin versus Lusamine from Pokémon. They are scientists and shit moms who are the heads of evil organizations that bond with an alien parasite to achieve their ultimate forms. Attack on Titan. Okay, I know Levi versus Roy is considered a really good matchup, but I don't really know anything about AOT, so I feel I can't cover that one and do it justice. So instead, you're just gonna have to put up with Beast Titan versus George the Ape from Rampage. They're people who can turn into big monkeys. At least if you go off the original Rampage canon, not the movie. Here's the legend of the Kung Fu Panda! Shifu versus Master Splinter from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'll be honest and say that I don't really know the connections beyond their animal senseis who have a connection to the villain, but it still sounds like it could be really cool. I do know it's a pretty popular matchup, or at least somewhat. I really haven't seen any better ideas for them, so yeah, would be neat to see. Steven Universe. Lapis Lazuli versus Chaos from Sonic the Hedgehog. Alright, so I kind of lied earlier when I said there weren't any Sonic matchups that really interested me. Two powerful characters with water-based abilities that were sealed away due to being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Both of which wreaked havoc upon being unleashed thousands of years later until they were subdued and brought back to their senses. Star versus the Forces of Evil. Marco versus Connie from Steven Universe. It's just Steven and Star's human love interests who learned how to fight. Yeah, I'm counting wrestling as its own series separate from real life because it basically is just its own fictional series. The Undertaker versus The Crow, because their whole gimmick is that they come back from the dead. Hellthing. Ceres Victoria versus Elsa Bloodstone from Marvel. They are vampire hunters with vampiric powers of their own, and they use guns. And finally, for Popeye, Bluto versus Pete from Mickey Mouse. Originally had this for Mickey Mouse until they announced that finale and needed something here. Basically just two big bully rival characters from old cartoons. That's all there is, and that's all you really need here. I think this will be a lot of fun. And there we have it, a new match idea for every series they've already used. I don't really know how to end this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you liked a fair share of the matches, and I'll see you all another time. Bye-bye.